Hey there, weavers, welcome back. This is Grace with Tangled Webs Weaving. And for those of you who watch my channel regularly, you probably know I have another project on the loom. And this is another project from the fall 2025 Handwoven magazine. And it is called Stormy Skies, Tells and Wrap. This is a 2-for-1 project in that it gives you a 5 cotton towels made from 8-2 cotton and a wrap that is made from the 8-2 cotton warp and a silk weft. I'm going to split this video up into 2 segments though. Otherwise it would just get too long. The towels I am going to weave now, and then next week I will weave the wrap, and you can see that. That should turn out really cool. I didn't film myself winding the warp for this project, but I did take a few pictures, and you can see them here of the warp on the warping board. And I love these colors. Well, except for the blue. I wasn't a big fan of the blue. When I ordered the yarn and the color is called slate, but I was picturing more of a gray blue rather than a blue. And when I got it, I was a little shocked that it was quite so bright, but I mean, I should have known. It was the picture was in the magazine. It's blue, but it is what it is. You know, and if I've learned anything, it's that even if I personally don't care for a color or a pattern, somebody else out there might, and they just might buy it off of my Etsy shop. So if you want to go and take a look at them, these will be on my Etsy shop when this video is released. By the way, this is a 5-end huck spot weave structure, which means it was a pretty easy, an easy pattern to thread. I mean, honestly, it's just 1 2 1 2 1 and then 4 3 4 3 4. How much more easy can you get? Although I did still make a couple mistakes, but I did correct them. I found them and corrected them. So the weaving on this project should go pretty easy since the treadling is exactly the same as the threading. So it's trompe writ. So we're going to treadle 1 2 1 2 1 and then 4 3 4 3 4. So it's a 10 treadle repeat. And we are going to be weaving the field of each towel using the same colors as is in the warp. So each towel, well, 4 of the towels will be a different warp color, or the weft will be a different color from the warp. And then there'll be a small plaid sequence about 2/3 of the way down the warp, and then we'll finish up with the same color. So for the first towel, we're going to use the olive. We'll weave olive, and then we'll do a plaid segment, and then we'll do the rest of the towel on olive. The next towel we'll do charcoal, and so forth. And then for the 5th towel, we're going to do a plaid sequence that matches the same sequencing as is in the warp. So you'll end up with a completely plaid towel. The center segment will be a continued repeat of the center portion of the warp, but the weft will have more repeats of that little center section, just because otherwise you would end up with a square towel, and a square towel doesn't, I prefer my towels longer than wide. Okay, so it's time to weave, so let's get started. Well, weavers, you can see I have been weaving along here, and this is my 2nd towel, and I am using the charcoal for this one. The previous one I used the olive, which turned out really nice. I like that one. and I am about almost halfway to the point where I am going to put in the plaid. So we'll just keep weaving along. This is a really easy treadling to remember. It is treadled the exact same way that it is threaded. So it's a trompe as writ. So I'm treadling 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and then 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. And I just keep doing that over and over. And what that does, and it's a little hard to see on here because it's woven so loosely, but maybe here in the lighter area you can see that it creates the floats that go over the warp threads. So the weft is floating over these warp threads, and it's creating the huck lace pattern. And by alternating the 1, 2 sequence with the 3, 4 sequence, I am staggering the huck floats. So the 1, 2 sequence is this float here, and the 4, 3 sequence is this float here. We'll just continue on. The beat on this is very light. I'm using an 8-2 cotton, and I've slayed it at 16 ends per inch, and I'm beating at 16 ends per inch. Which is extremely light for an 8-2 cotton. Normally I would put it at least 20 ends per inch for a twill. But, and I need to quit talking while I'm weaving because I think I just messed that one up. Okay, so we go 1. Oops. Mm-hmm. 2. So I'm really not even beating, I'm placing. And then I switch to 4, 3, 4, 3. Oops, didn't quite get it. Hard enough throw on that one. 4, and then we switch back to 1. So because it's beat so lightly, it goes pretty fast. The other thing that I want to do on a regular basis is to check my beat. So I have, this is for checking the gauge in knitting. And what's nice about it is it has this clear section here where you can see the stitches through the clear piece that is lined up with the ruler part. So let's, my head's gonna get in the way, but let's see if we can do this. So we have And it slightly magnifies it too, makes it a little easier to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so I'm a little over 1 inch, so I need to beat just a teensy bit harder. Go ahead and check our beat again and see if we came up better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Perfect. That is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to advance my warp again. So you can see that short amount of time, I wove like 3 inches. You'll also notice that this warp is quite wide. It is, let's see, it is slayed at, yes, 26 inches wide, almost. And the reason for that is because when we take this off the loom and we wet finish it, it will shrink quite a bit. And then you'll be able to really see that huck lace pattern in the field here. So I've got about another 7.5 inches to go before I start my plaid on it. All right, so we are at 20 inches. At this point, the pattern calls for switching to one of these plaid sequences, and it leaves the sequencing to your own personal preference. With the using the charcoal, I think the plaid sequence that I want to use is this one right here. So I'm going to do this number of picks in the tan, and I believe this is 25, I think this is 25 threads. So I'm going to do 25 picks of weft in this, 5 picks of the charcoal, 5 picks of the green or the olive, 5 picks of the slate, 5 picks of the olive, 5 of the slate, 5 of the olive, 5 of the slate, 5 of the olive, 5 of the charcoal, and then 25 of the tan again. And that will give me a square plaid right here. Well, it won't be square, but it will mimic what the weft order is. So I want to go ahead and grab my other shuttle, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry the charcoal up the side because it's the next color that I'm going to use, and it will keep me from having to cut it, and you're not going to see it over here. These other color changes, I will probably cut and tuck the tails. It's a little time consuming, but it makes it look really nice. So let me go grab my other shuttle. Here are the other bobbins. And the first one I'm going to use is the, I guess this is called oatmeal. So we're going to put the oatmeal in. And we're going to follow the same treadling sequence that we've been following all along, so that we still have that huck lace patterning. I'm going to start from this side, and I'm going to do a split ply on tucking my tail, just because we're going to have a fair number of these tails being tucked, and so it just makes it look a lot nicer, and it also keeps it from building up. One, and then this one, so that this travels up the side, I want to be sure to loop my active weft around my inactive weft so that it carries up the side. Oops. Okay. And because this is an odd number of picks, I'm going to end on the opposite side that I began on. We're going to go ahead and cut that thread, tuck our tail, and now we're going to do 5 picks of the gray, the charcoal, which we already have on our bobbin here. So it's not a problem to just continue on. Since we carried that up, you can't even tell that we carried it up the side. Now we're going to go ahead and continue to carry this up this side. Since it's an odd number of picks, it ended up on this side, which is perfectly what we want it to do. Now I'm going to switch my colors out to, and then I kind of wish I had a third bobbin of this size, but I don't. So we will just do it this way. There we go. And I started, I ended on this side before. I think I'll go ahead and start on this side, just so that I'm staggering. It doesn't really matter because I'm not getting any buildup by splitting my tails, but it doesn't hurt to stagger them either, so I'm gonna do that. Oops. Under that. Now I could carry this green up the side while I do the blue, since the blue is going to be, but it will stand out over here. So I'm just going to do it how I like it. I don't want it to stand out, so it takes a little more time to tuck all these tails, but that's okay. I like the way it looks better. If you don't want to tuck all those tails, carry it up the side. There are no weaving police, at least not in my neighborhood. So now we're going to do the slate, which I wish this was a little bit more on the gray side than the blue side. I think I would have liked that better. So maybe at some point in the future, I will do these again and get a little bit more gray blue rather than blue blue. Now we can start back up with our gray, or charcoal. There. Now I just need to weave to 30 inches and then I will weave my hem allowance and we can start on the next towel. But before I go any further, I want to cut off all these threads. I hate having to do it after I take my item off the loom. So I like to do them as I go along. And I'm gonna cut them a little bit longer than, I'm not gonna cut them right up to the cloth, so that it gives it a little room to shrink and not pull out. Oh, that one is a little too long. All right, so we got those done. And then when it's, after it's wet finished, I can come back and trim them up a little more if I need to. And honestly, I use a sweater shaver to do that a lot of times, because they're too short to really use scissors on without possibly cutting the cloth itself, and we don't want to do that. There, now it's all cleaned up and we can continue weaving. Well, I just ran out of the charcoal on this bobbin, but I wanted to show you a little something. And I'm not sure how this is going to work. It might work, it might not, but we're going to try it. So on my charcoal, I've used up pretty much all of the yarn on the bobbin, or on the spool, right? So this is all I have left. And I thought to myself, will this fit in here? I think it will. So it does, it fits in there and it will wind around. My only concern is it's gonna wanna flop back and forth, and is that gonna cause a problem? But I thought, if this will work, it's gonna save me having to wind this bobbin, and this is just gonna end up on here. So let's give it a try. All right. I think I ended on 2. Yep, I did. So we're gonna do 1. And we'll feed this through. And then we'll feed this one through. Oh, it's a little tall, but it'll use that up. Okay. That through there. We're gonna overlap them a bit and see if I can find my needle to split those plies. I can't find my needle, but I have my little handy dandy cocktail umbrella, which has a toothpick on the end of it. So I think I got this in Hawaii, I don't know, a few years back. And I keep it in my weaving room and use it to pick up the threads out of here, and it works pretty darn good. Whatever is handy. There we go. Okay, go under there. And just like with the tucking the tails, when I overlap my joins, I split the plies, and that way when you go to do the After you wash it, after you wet finish it, you can't even see it. In fact, when I cut the little tails that are sticking out, you probably won't be able to see it. All right, so let's see how this works. So it's a little tall, but that'll work itself out. I think this is gonna work. Yeah. All right. So we're just gonna keep weaving on until, whoa, until we hit 30 inches. And then we'll do our hem allowance. And then I need to decide which color I want to use next. Okay, so this last little section here, I am treadling 1/4 again. So let's look and see. Oh, see, I'm not so I've got to unweave that. Now, I just want to say this is working so well that I am going to see how I can possibly wind my bobbins this way. And that's, oh, it's actually, look at that. It's stuck to that. That is so funny. I'm going to see if there's a way to, a winder that will wind bobbins this way. Because if I can wind a bobbin or a tube of yarn on these, what do they call these things? These tubes. This works so much better. It's not as noisy. It doesn't get caught up. Going back and forth, it kind of keeps the yarn centered coming out of here, because that's always a problem. So yeah, this works great. And it looks like there's a lot of yarn on there. And they make longer tubes for the yarn. I mean, I've got the ones that my Cottolin comes on from Brockens. Yeah, I'm going to look into that. But right now, I need to unweave this. I went one too many. Well, weavers, I got a little carried away and I ended up weaving the remaining 3 towels off the camera. The treadling sequence was so simple that I just kind of got in a rhythm and wove them all. The only slowdown that I did have was in the plaid sections where I was changing the colors frequently. And especially on the towel that was all plaid, those color changes, I chose to cut and tuck all the tails. I did carry the charcoal up the side because you couldn't really see it. But all the other colors, I did cut the tails, split the ply, and tuck those tails. So that did take a little extra time, but I really like the finished look of it better, and it doesn't take up that much time. I just kind of zenned out and did it. So I wanted to show you the final results. So, whoa! Okay. So I wanted to show you the final results. Here we have them. You can see I have, each towel is a different, the weft is a different color that was chosen from the warp. And let's see here. So we have the one that was oatmeal, I believe. This was the charcoal. Let's see if I can do this. This was the, which one was this? This was the, what did they call this? It's blue. This one was the blue one. I didn't care for the blue as much, but I did weave a towel of it. Somebody might like it. This is the olive. And then this is the all plaid one. So you can see that I have the plaid all the way down. In the center section, the plaid is repeated several times to create a longer towel. Now, I did mess up a little bit on the first towel, which was the olive towel. And I thought that they were supposed to be 30 inches long, and so I wove that one to 30 inches. They're supposed to be 36 inches. So the olive one is a little bit short. I may keep that one back. I do like the olive. I think the two, my favorites are the all plaid, the olive, and the charcoal. Those are probably my favorites. Now on the not so favorite ones, the blue and the oatmeal, so I was able to kind of tone down the look a little bit by picking which side I made the outside, let's say, because I hemmed the towels and I had to pick which side I wanted to be the top. And on one side you have all the weft floats showing, and so it shows more of the weft color. On the opposite side you have warp floats. Kind of one of the cool things about the huck spot structure. And so you're seeing more of the warp than of the weft. So on the two towels that have the colors that I wasn't a big fan of, I hem them so that the warp floats are showing on top, and it kind of tones down the weft. But that's just me. If you buy them, that's what you're gonna get though, because they're hemmed that way. I also wanted to show you, because let's look at one of these. So let's open this up. Oh, and then so the towels that are mostly one color have a segment of plaid in about 2/3 of the way down the towel. So when you're hanging it from your, whatever you hang it from, you can have that out, or you can have the plain side out. I like the plaid side. But I wanted to show you, so you can see how the weft floats After it was wet finished, those weft floats really kind of pulled in and created some deflection there. And I have a unfinished piece that I'd like to show you also that really demonstrates that aspect of these. So I have a sample here that I haven't wet finished yet. You can see that just taking the tension off the cloth allows the structure to deflect. And you can see the curves starting where the weft floats over the warp and in these huck spots. Now here is the wet finished cloth for comparison. As you can see, the threads have shrunk and the floats are creating even more deflection and curve. Another interesting fact about this weave structure is there are weft floats on the side we wove up and warp floats on the side that we wove down. We could have woven these so that the warp floats were on the top, but it's easier to see the weft floats when you're weaving and see when you've made a mistake. As you can see on the unfinished cloth, the warp floats are a little challenging to see. You'll also notice that the weft floats show up more of the weft color than the side with the warp floats. So when you hem the towels, you have to decide which you prefer. For instance, I wasn't a big fan of the blue, so I chose to make the weft floats the back of that towel, while on the charcoal towel, I made the weft floats the front. If you'd like to purchase one of these towels, I'll leave a link to them on my Etsy shop down below in the description box. I hope you enjoyed watching me weave them, and if you did, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. I hope you can join me next week when I weave the wrap that is woven on the warp that was left on the loom. Until then, thanks for watching and happy weaving.